Hypocrisy moves quietly through the executive corridors of billion-dollar sports franchises, and it rarely announces itself with the honesty it deserves. When the news of Johan Rojas failing a drug test broke across the Philadelphia sports media landscape, the institutional response followed the predictable script: shock, disappointment, public declarations of organizational standards and competitive integrity, all of it real enough on the surface, all of it entirely appropriate for public consumption. But if you could place a listening device inside the private strategy sessions where Dave Dombrowski and his front office staff actually process roster implications, what you would hear beneath the carefully managed outrage is something far more complicated and far more honest than the press release language suggests. Philadelphia Phillies front office Dave Dombrowski roster strategy. You would hear relief. Not the kind of relief that anyone in that room would ever verbalize publicly, because the reputational damage attached to a third positive drug test within 12 months is a genuine organizational crisis that demands serious institutional self-examination. But the roster mathematics do not lie, and in the cold analytical language of competitive baseball construction, the Johan Rojas suspension solved a problem that was quietly threatening to paralyze the Phillies' outfield strategy before the regular season even began. Johan Rojas, Philadelphia Phillies, center field. To understand why, you need to first confront the full scope of what this franchise has lived through chemically in less than a calendar year. Jose Alvarado, the most intimidating presence in the bullpen, suspended after testing positive for exogenous testosterone. The explanation involving accidental contamination through a weight loss medication absorbed by the public with considerable skepticism. Then Max Kepler, signed specifically to provide right-handed balance against the rotation, banned for 80 games after testing positive for epitrenbolone, a substance whose most extensively documented historical applications involve the accelerated growth of beef cattle. And now Rojas, making Philadelphia the involuntary epicenter of performance, enhancing drug controversies in the current competitive era of the sport. MLB drug testing PED suspension policy. The media is demanding accountability. Columnists are questioning whether the team's medical and compliance infrastructure has developed institutional blind spots, whether the culture inside the Citizens Bank Park clubhouse carries a tolerance for chemical shortcuts that the organization's public statements refuse to acknowledge. Those are legitimate institutional questions that deserve honest examination rather than deflection. But while the public relations machinery manages the optics of crisis, Dombrowski is focused on a separate and more immediately tactical question. He is focused on what the suspension of number 18 just did to his center field headache. Philadelphia Phillies Citizens Bank Park outfield. Because here is the statistical truth about Johan Rojas that the defensive highlight reels were obscuring with increasing desperation. In 2025, Rojas posted a batting average of .224. His on-base percentage sat at .281. His slugging percentage reached a deeply troubling .289. Combine those figures and you arrive at an OPS of .569 across 172 plate appearances. His OPS plus, the metric that normalizes performance across different ballpark environments and measures a player against league average, registered at 57. That number means Johan Rojas performed offensively at 43% below the average Major League Baseball hitter. Baseball statistics, OPS batting average analytics. To place that figure in its proper competitive context, you need to understand what a black hole at the bottom of the lineup actually costs a team built around offensive production at the top. When Kyle Schwarber and Tree Turner are consistently reaching base and the pitcher's spot in the batting order is functionally more dangerous than your center fielder, you are not simply missing production at one position. You are actively disrupting the mathematical flow of innings, reducing the frequency with which your premium hitters come to the plate with runners on base, and gifting opposing pitchers a relief valve every time they navigate toward the bottom of the order. The defensive artistry that Rojas undeniably possesses, the route-running instincts, the first-step timing that scouts study as a model of outfield technique, could not offset the damage his bat was systematically inflicting on offensive architecture. Baseball lineup construction analytics batting order. Rob Thompson was trapped inside a genuinely sadistic managerial dilemma. Start Rojas, and the offensive flow suffocates. Demote him to AAA, and you destroy whatever remaining trade value exists, while simultaneously creating a narrative about a young player whose confidence has been institutionally dismantled. There was no clean exit from that corner. The lead provided one. 80 games. Decision made excellently. Page torn from the script by forces entirely outside the organization's control. Justin Crawford, Philadelphia Phillies prospect center field. Into that vacancy steps Justin Crawford, and the circumstances surrounding his arrival have been altered in ways that extend well beyond simply opening a roster spot. The 17th overall pick in the 2022 draft brings a contact-oriented approach that is almost architecturally opposite to the power-dependent offensive identity this roster has cultivated around home runs and slugging. His speed is legitimate and disruptive. His bat-to-ball skills represent exactly the kind of complementary offensive profile that a lineup built around Schwarber, Harper, and Turner needs to prevent opposing pitching staffs from designing simple game plans around pure power suppression. Justin Crawford, minor league prospect speed contact hitter. But the most underappreciated consequence of the Rojas suspension is not what it adds to the roster. It is what it removes from the psychological environment surrounding Crawford's development. Had Rojas been healthy and eligible throughout spring training, every Crawford error in exhibition games would have generated its own media cycle. Every swing and miss, every misread fly ball, every base-running miscalculation would have fed a narrative comparing the rookie unfavorably to the established offender he was competing against. Crawford would have been performing under evaluation pressure before he ever played a game that counted in the standings. The suspension eliminated that invisible weight entirely. There is no competition anymore. There is only development. 6 Philadelphia Phillies breaking news. Johan Rojas Phillies.